Hi everyone and welcome to your horoscope for the week of June the 29th, 2020. We have a really active and powerful sky playing out all throughout the week, but this is where, when I say active, it is a totally different kind of active than it was the last couple of weeks, even months, and even since the beginning of the year. Because right now, the word active actually represents dynamism, action, things coming together, taking initiative, making choices, and enacting them with action. And all of this because Mars, at the very end of last week, on the 28th of June, it changed signs, moving into its home sign of Aries. And as I said in my previous horoscopes, at the very beginning of this period, it is a really good, powerful, and much needed energy because it helps us get things done, it helps us take action, it helps us make choices, even if those choices are just inner ones. And basically, a very powerful and dynamic Mars gives us the willpower, the ambition, determination to do whatever it takes to change our situations, to work towards what we feel most important in our lives. But at the same time, it can also be the power of elimination and closures, where we stand up for ourselves, we set boundaries, and basically we protect them. And the Mars in the sign of Aries also awakens our instincts, our primordial selves. So this is a period when we're going to be that much more instinctual, and at the beginning of this period, this is actually a breath of fresh air because Mars transited the sign of Pisces, and its symbolism in that part of the sky was rather diminished, it was slowed, it was basically drowned in the Piscean, unconscious, mystical, confusing waters of emotions. But this is where it is its home sign, so it is the sign of the warrior, it is the sign of primordial fire, and also the inner child. So everything that is basically action oriented, may it be external or internal, because the inner child is the core and the source of so many of our desires, especially those desires which are born in our heart space, but at the same time also those desires which basically have so much to do with the person who we are in our cores, our primordial self basically. So chances are that some of the desires we wish to experience and live through this lifetime are desires that we just find or we create for ourselves, or maybe other people inspire them, or it could be education, the influence of society, the times we live in, etc. But other desires, very profound, almost karmic desires that we have to enact in this life, stem from the primordial selves and the inner child, of course. So for all of this, Mars in its home sign of Aries, especially at the beginning of this period, it is really good. Of course, later on, especially at the middle of the summer, we are definitely going to have the more negative and assertive expression of this Mars. And all throughout the year until December, we will have a lot of opportunities to see the most extreme expression of Mars, because it will form a lot of squares, hard aspects, which represent conflict, strife, anger, rage, frustration, and all of this lead to war, and conflict basically. But at the same time, it will meet with its sister, the planetoid Eris, the goddess of discord, rebellion, the awakener basically, also in the sign of Aries. And when these two power players dance together in a conjunction, well, chances are that Mars is going to be that much more powerful and intolerant and aggressive because it is fueled by the symbolism of Aries, which is basically the female warrior. So their symbolisms are very, very similar. And also because Aries has certain qualities of Uranus attached to her, the revolution, the quickness, the spontaneity. So this can be quite a powerful time for strife and chaos to manifest instantly in our lives, but also collectively. And of course, both of them are going to square Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. So that means conflict, that means trouble, that means people versus centralized power, inner conflict within centralized power, things, getting out of control, big truths are going to be revealed or exposed, and people are going to react very assertively to that. But of course, all of this in the coming weeks and months, and not right now, fortunately. And also, last but not least about Mars, this is the part of the sky where it's going to go retrograde. So it's a very, very intense and long-term and heavy retrograde, because basically Mars is going to be staying in this part of the sky for 6 months, opposed to, 6 or 7 weeks, and what it takes Mars usually to traverse this sign. So, action and expressing ourselves and our emotions and even everything that stands out of our instinct is going to be a major theme, and this is going to change so very many things in our lives and on the world stage. Also, Mars is going to form some very beautiful and harmonious aspects at the very beginning of the week, and this is where it sextiles Venus, first of all. And this is a beautiful aspect because, our words, communication, our mental processes, everything that is born within the mind can be that much more magnetic, persuasive, action-oriented. So this is really good time for project, to initiate ideas, to follow up ideas with action, to communicate everything. It is a really good aspect for any kind of intellectual work, and even, dating and, making friends, connecting to new people, because all of these have so much to do with the sign of Gemini. And a harmonious conversation between Mars and Venus just makes us that much more attractive, magnetic, receptive, especially our minds, our communication, our words, and our thoughts and ideas. So this is a really good aspect, for example, for online dating, for a job interview, for sales, to negotiate a contract, for any kind of negotiation, because Mars infuses Venus with the power of persuasion, where your words or everything that you express can be that much more attractive, magnetic, and it can convince people. This is also a very good financial aspect, because you can find solutions, and new connections and opportunities can enter into your life, but all of these require you to take action, because this is a sextile, so it's not a free blessing that just falls into your lap. And at the same time, Mars also forms a sextile with Saturn. First of all, Saturn is going to be in 0 degrees of Aquarius, its ancient ruling sign, and then it will retrograde back into Capricorn. And the sextile with Mars is a really good energy to manifest, to work, to keep on strong on your path, to motivate yourself, to, attract help in your life. If whatever you need to accomplish requires sacrifices, a lot of invested effort, work, time, blood, sweat, and tears, all of that, this is a really good aspect for you to endure, for you to find the inner motivation, for you to see the big picture while you're doing this. And we also have another beautiful aspect, a trine between Saturn and Venus, where this trine is only still viable at the very beginning of the week, but it's still a celestial blessing of clarity, of grounded, realistic thoughts, constructive thoughts, blessed communication and information, help being offered to us from our social connections, the local community, people who we know may be highly influential people in higher places, in a higher position than ourselves. This is also a beautiful aspect of manifestation, where the emphasis is put on your thoughts. Whatever you think, whatever you speak, whatever you communicate can simply manifest in your life. But the most positive aspect, the most influential positive energy, is Mercury retrograde in the sign of Cancer, sextiling its higher octave Uranus, and a couple of days later, the Sun is going to meet Mercury in the sky in a conjunction, and both of these planets are going to hold the same sextile with Uranus, and the sextile being quite exact. So this is a celestial infusion of inspiration, of ideas, of ingenious thinking, inspiration from other people, especially those who you love. You know, the Sun is in Cancer, family, friends, people who you are connected to and they're really dear to your soul, people who you regard as family, your extended family, people who you have a very strong soul level connection with, people from your culture, people from the local community, everything that has to do with the symbolism of Cancer. And since the Sun is here, it illuminates everything. Our lights can shine that much more within our families, our local communities, our emotional intelligence, our emotional strength, our empathy, compassion, our nurturing abilities, and our desire to nurture and be there for others are all going to be greatly amplified. And you know, Uranus is the planet of surprises, of the unexpected, of shocks, of manifestation and magnetism. It is the god of the winds and a guardian of the sky. So when there is a sextile between Mercury conjunct the Sun and Uranus, it can be absolutely anything: surprising, delightful, unexpected help, unexpected ideas, epiphany, sudden realization, brainstorming, coming up with the very best solutions. Or it can be divine guidance, it can be the divine power just offering you inspiration, ideas, divine downloads that can be a massive problem solver as long as you get out of your comfort zone and take action. But at the same time, this is a very mystical energy because, you know, Mercury conjunct the Sun is the aspect of prophecy, Apollo. The light, the prophetic light of the Sun can reach us and reveal to us everything that is hidden, everything that is concealed. And Uranus, the planet of the future and of foresight and of predictions, Uranus is the governing planet of astrology. So this is a very prophetic aspect when, you know, either intuitively, through dreams, through altered state of consciousness, or simply divine downloads, epiphanies, brainstorming, the most important and relevant ideas, philosophies, inspiration can come to us, or the future can be revealed in a flash. So this is a really, really good aspect for very many things. For example, even things which are highly emotional in nature, because, you know, Uranus is not a very emotional planet, but because Mercury and the Sun are in the emotional sign of Cancer, well, all of a sudden, Uranus can trigger very powerful emotional healing. You know, it can pull to the surface certain truths that can heal us, that can help us, you know, accept, forgive the past, forgive people who wronged us and hurt us emotionally. It can also reveal to us where our true blessings are, where our greatest virtues are, what we need to do exactly to have a moment of breakthrough, or to find our places in the world, to find out what we truly desire deep within ourselves. So this energy of blessing is so useful in very many different things. And at the same time, Neptune also sextiles Jupiter and Pluto, and that is the energy of magic. That is the energy of dreams and fantasies. where basically we can dream our desires and what we wish to experience into reality, but this is a very long-term aspect, and it is going to last for most of the year. And how I see this energy in long term, basically the big picture, is that this is a celestial help of inspiration, of faith and spirituality to help all of us, both individually and collectively, navigate through this very, very hard, troublesome times of crisis and global turmoil. Now there's also very, very important energy shift which is going to be taking place in the sky around the 2nd of July, where Saturn retrogrades back into its home sign of Capricorn, and this will change the overall tone. Now, exactly the very day when Saturn moved into its ancient ruling sign of Aquarius in 0 degrees, that exact astrological moment coincided with many countries all around the world installing the social distancing rules. So it was the beginning of a massive restriction. And now when Saturn is going back into its home sign of Capricorn, retrograding out of Aquarius, this can represent the relaxation of the social distancing rules, but not always in the most favorable fashion, because in most of the world, the relaxation rules are actually due to the social pressure and not anything else. And as Saturn retrogrades back into its home sign of Capricorn, this is where the political, social, economical aspects and all of the inner turmoil in centralized power, big corporation, big organizations. So you know the situation which basically played out all throughout the world before this coronavirus started, because basically the whole world was in a social and political turmoil, elections, political battles, the battle of ideologies and visions about the future, even battle between science and religion, and all of that are going to resume. But as they resume, this is where they have to find a permanent resolution, solution, or harmony, or whatever, because Saturn on the 21st of December 2020 is permanently moving out of Capricorn and starting its 3-year transit in the sign of Aquarius. And also that will be the moment when the Great Conjunction is going to take place. So until the very end of this year, all those karmic manifestations within centralized power, organizations, rules and regulations, customs and traditions, patriarchy, everything that has to do with the symbolism of Capricorn, including, the personal and individual symbolism, maybe our jobs, our careers, our relations with work and profession, our soul missions in this life. All of these symbolisms have to reach a certain kind of stability, because by the end of the year, Saturn's work has to be completed in this part of the sky, because it won't return here anytime soon. But of course, even in this present moment, we have a very important energy in Capricorn, where Pluto and Jupiter retrograde are dancing together in the sky in a conjunction. So this basically continues the big theme of the deconstruction of centralized power, a reset, a reconfiguration, a transformation, an alchemization of the symbolism of Capricorn, basically. So this is where we are definitely abandoning the past and the way we used to do things, even socially, even economically, even politically in the past, and we're stepping into the future. But before we step into the future, well, Saturn retrograding back in 29 degrees of Capricorn, an anaretic degree, where its symbolism is greatly amplified, and since it's the ruling planet of Capricorn, that also further amplifies its symbolism. The fact that it is almost conjunct Jupiter, that further expands the symbolism of Saturn, but in anaretic degree, it's usually the shadow expression, or it's a very heavy culmination of the symbolism of that sign. So that is not the most positive news, because it can mean severe material restrictions, blockages, material stagnation, poverty, economic crisis, no solutions, no options. But this is where, fortunately, we also have an extremely powerful and active Mars. So we may be stagnating a little bit, but during the stagnation, we're going to find solutions, we're going to take actions to resolve everything that has been left from the past. This is where we're definitely going to declutter our lives, make choices, make decisions, refine our inner structures, create very strict rules and regulations and self-discipline for ourselves in our lives. And chances are that we are going to respect our own rules, our own decisions, our own goals. So even though this energy might slow progress a little bit down, and it might greatly amplify our lacks, everything that we do not have but we need, still, this very active Mars gives us all that we need, all the power, all the determination, all the courage and initiative to take action and fix everything. And this is where, even if we might not have any options in our lives right now, we no longer wait. We no longer, surrender it. This is where we take everything in our own hands, and we just have to fix it. We have to come up with solutions one way or another. So this is a really, really positive energy. Even though the moment when Saturn re-enters Capricorn, it can feel a little bit heavy, it can feel a little bit too much, but that is just going to be the catalyst for our ambition, for our determination, for our courage to move away from stagnation and to do everything that it is in our powers to achieve forward momentum, progress, or to get things done. And even though, Saturn is the constrictor, it is the planet which sets limitations, which puts everything to a stop, to a standstill. But when there is effort, when there is work, sacrifice, initiative, courage, Saturn rewards. That is the inner setup, the inner attitude basically, what is needed to navigate through successfully wherever Saturn puts a restriction. And all of this can be perfectly true individually. Whenever the sign of Capricorn falls into your personal chart, whichever area of life it is. But of course collectively, where collectively it's definitely centralized power and the social structures which hold our social reality together. And there is one big energy that I would like to mention. Whereas Mars, as soon as it enters in its home sign of Aries, it will square 0 degrees of Cancer. Even though there is no planet there in the present moment, it was the karmic point where this very powerful solar eclipse in Cancer took place. So the energies of that eclipse are still lingering in 0 degrees of Cancer basically. So the square with Mars can trigger very powerful manifestations, or it can be like an inner or celestial or karmic invitation for us to take a specific type of action in order to trigger a powerful manifestation of that Cancer solar eclipse, which should be a new beginning one way or another, or a fantastic progress or something new, something creational that enters our lives whenever 0 degrees of Cancer falls into our own personal charts. So basically what I'm saying is that at the very beginning of the week, pay close attention to what feelings you have, what might stir your instincts, your gut feelings, not so much intuition, but rather, your survival instincts, or what signs you have in your life, or what you're feeling, because it can be a hint of however that eclipse is going to manifest in your life. And especially that we have a sextile between the Sun conjunct Mercury and Uranus. As I said earlier, it is a very prophetic energy where the universe can just show you what awaits you in the future, and this will be the moment when your future vision, your foresight, your ability to, calculate and anticipate the future is going to be the sharpest, and whatever information you receive, it can be quite accurate, and it can just reveal to you your future wherever you're heading, you're stepping into, basically, both karmically and from any other perspective. And also, towards the end of the week, Mars is immediately going to be holding a hard aspect, a square, with Mercury retrograde in the sign of Cancer. So this can mean impulsiveness, angry words, self-victimization tendencies projected onto others, toxicity. So be very careful with what feelings you're projecting onto other people, what information you're sharing and communicating. Because when you stand from a place of negativity, of pain, of hurt, of woundedness, you can hurt other people. Of course, it is perfectly natural and more than okay to share your feelings, to share your pain, to share your emotional problems, but you must make sure that the way you share it is not toxic, not suffocating, and you're not wounding other people with your own pain. The urges can be very, very strong, where we can just be so very impulsive that we speak even without thinking. We just feel the necessity, the need, the desire to express ourselves, especially whatever we are feeling, whatever is present in our emotional world. So we can expect a little bit of tension, a little bit of conflict, and as I said, angry words. But of course, at the very end of the week, either on the 4th of July or the 5th of July, depending where you are on the planet, we have a very powerful penumbral, so partial, lunar eclipse in the sign of Capricorn. Now this eclipse is special for a number of different reasons, but this is where this eclipse can be more powerful in some parts of the world than in other, and we're talking about America especially, because this eclipse at 13 degrees of Capricorn is quite famous, because we had a very similar lunar activity in 2001, exactly on the same day, the 4th of July. And we all know what this eclipse triggered, and I mean the events of 9/11. So it manifested in a very vengeful and negative way in, September, but it was a massive eye-opener. So whatever it had to reveal to all of us as a collective, it was a very powerful message that we have to stop our ways, we have to stop fanaticism, we have to stop mindless, blind, and useless traditions from ruling our lives. Because, rigid rules, dogmas, the most negative and toxic expression of faith is definitely to the sign of Capricorn and the sign of Sagittarius, and both of these signs are very relevant because Capricorn hosts the moon, so the full moon in the sign of Capricorn, the penumbral eclipse, but Sagittarius is the one which hosts the south node, so the past karma, the mistakes of the past, the flaws, the toxic patterns of the past. And Sagittarius has much to do with religion, philosophy, ideals, worldview, world vision, so it has much to do with religion. And these signs together when there is an activity in both of them, well, they can speak about the unhealthy expression of dogmatic beliefs, of rigid rules, of the inability to shift old customs and traditions whenever they don't no longer serve a higher purpose. And it's not even that they don't serve a higher purpose, they actually serve a very negative purpose of destruction and just enslaving the souls and psyches of innocent people, basically. So let's hope that the last eclipse, in 2001 was eye-opening, impactful, shocking enough for all of us to have learned the lessons. Because if we did learn the lesson, then there is no reason why this penumbral eclipse in Capricorn should be that vengeful and should manifest something that ugly, that frightening, and that hurtful, basically. But of course, talking about lessons of the past, the South Node in the sign of Sagittarius is squared. Of course, this square, this hard aspect, is not perfect, so it's really weak in the present moment, by Neptune. So its illusions, its confusion, it is a challenge of faith, beliefs, ideologies, principles, philosophies. So this is where the illusions are battling the truth, the past, and the toxicity of the past is battling the future. So one way or another, the manifestation of this full moon is definitely going to be extremely symbolic. And at this time, Mercury is going to square Mars. So angry words, very powerful, impactful, shocking communication or gestures, a way of expression, maybe even artistic expression or spiritual, religious expression is going to, stir all of us up. But let's just hope that the symbolism this time in 2020, because we had a lot of time to learn from the mistake of the past, let's just hope that this full moon won't bring anything too, vengeful, too assertive, too severe and violent in the world, regardless of how it plays out. But as I said earlier, this eclipse is going to be more powerful and more symbolic in some parts of the world, and unfortunately America is one of them. So basically the main theme of 2001 is returning in America, but here I say let's just hope that it won't play out the same way. Let's just hope that it's going to be just something very, very symbolic and not physical, not material, not, destructive, basically. But either way, we are talking about a full moon in the sign of Capricorn, so it definitely represents a massive karmic manifestation, a closure, an ending, an elimination, the manifestation of something. So it depends very much on where 13 degrees of Capricorn falls into your personal chart, because no one says it has to be negative. No one says it has to be destructive. It can also be a karmic completion, a manifestation of something which you have worked for, something that you need in your life, something that you have sacrificed for. It can also be clarity, information, the light of truth revealing certain things to you, which are going to be very, very helpful later on. And the moon also trines Uranus, so it can be really positive, it can be a pleasant surprise, it can be unexpected help, it can be gains, it can be, anything, because both of these planets speak from earth signs, so it can be material, it can be a positive manifestation, a closure, which can feel like a breath of fresh air, it can be the removal of limitations, inner blockages, outer blockages, it can be help from society, authorities, organizations, material help. like getting rid of a job or a career which didn't make you happy, but at the same time it can be a fantastic reward within your job and career for something great that you might have done. It can be a chance and opportunity for a promotion to climb up the social ladder. So no one says it has to be all doom and gloom. And even on the world stage, I do believe personally that the biggest manifestation of this energy is that of truth and information and, very relevant disclosures or, revealing of secrets or anything like that, that is going to have a very massive impact on all of us. So I do believe that this is the kind of light of truth. It is where the moon illuminates of Capricorn, and it, reveals everything that is there hidden or not hidden or unresolved. So this can be a really good energy, even though, as I said, the trine with Uranus, whatever it manifests, it can shock us, it can be a big surprise, it can stir our emotions up, because Mercury is squaring Mars. And let's not forget that Jupiter, Pluto and Saturn, even though they're not going to be near that moon, they're still in the sign of Capricorn. So basically, centralized power and all the external symbolism of Capricorn, like big corporation organizations, big pharma, religious institutions, laws, traditions, cause everything is in big trouble because the moon is going to add light, the light of truth. Uranus is also truth, objective reality, and of course even science, even the internet. So news can travel on the internet. So basically this is like a karmic bomb exploding in Capricorn because Jupiter, Saturn and Pluto are already there together working, deconstructing and then reconstructing centralized power, exposing all the corruption, nepotism, flaws and everything that doesn't work, and it triggers, the truth, our feelings, how we feel towards it. And, in the present moment, no one feels anything positive towards, those institutions that need to provide us with social security. No one trusts, no one sympathizes, no one supports. So basically, the full moon here is not gonna trigger any positive feelings, but the truth which is going to reveal, or however it's going to manifest, well, that can be very relevant for us to find closure or simply to embrace the truth by looking at it, observing it, analyzing it, and then we can just decide, well, this is the situation, this is how things are, and the best possible solution right now is for me to just accept it and see how I feel towards it and what I want to do in my personal life. But as I said before, this eclipse, this full moon in Capricorn, is definitely going to be affecting Americas more than any other place in the world. Because, Americas also have their Pluto return in their second house. So that means a massive force of transformation regarding their value systems. Of course, Pluto return isn't exact yet, but it is still a energy which is at work there. So their value systems are collapsing and they have to reconfigure it, find what value means to them in this new paradigm opposed to how it always used to be. And also Uranus in the sign of Taurus is also very relevant for Americas because it brought on financial instability, the Great Depression, crisis. So they're being hit from so very many places of the sky. So for them it is a very massive karmic transition period where this lunar eclipse is going to trigger some very important karmic manifestations. And once again I say, I personally hope that it is just symbolic and nothing too severe. But for now I'm going to leave it like this. I'm pretty sure that we're going to have a specially dedicated article analyzing this full moon in Capricorn. and probably also readings like a pick a card reading of how this can manifest in your life. So please stay tuned. Thank you so much for listening. It's going to be a very active and dynamic week. So please do everything that it is in your power to seize the opportunities and to seize the empowerment of Mars. Thank you once again for your trust and for being here. Until next time, bye for now.